Welcome, sir. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Sreeraman.
Hi, everyone.
We are between the awards, I think, now.
Thank you for being here. Quick intro is MVS Murthy, is the Chief Marketing Officer of Federal Bank, one of the technologically most savvy bank out there. I'm Sreeraman. I run Agrahyah. We are a tech and communication consulting firm. So, quick show of hands. When I say customer community, how many of you equate it with a social media page or a Instagram page or a Twitter where you have followers and okay, you let's say so imagine Elon Musk doesn't like X or Twitter and he shuts it down. So what happens to the 1 million followers or the customer community you have there, right? So that was the genesis of this topic that we have today, saying, moving from reels to real, how do we build customer engagement? And to open, I would say that, you are a bank that prides in human at the core. That's a mantra you live by. So first tell us, what does that mean? Digital at the fore and human at the core.
Most of these lines can't be created out of happenstance, saying that, I wake up in the morning and I decide that I want to call Federal Bank as the bank which is human at the fore and digital at the fore. It has got to be inside the culture of the organization, inside the DNA of the place. And when I'm using both of these words, let me quantify it. We have a less than 2% attrition in our company, which is the lowest in India Inc. The largest private sector bank has an attrition of about 37-40%. Second thing is that we are a 42% women employee company. Okay, when I say 42% women employee company, it means that these women must have joined us as probationary officers, as clerks, as management trainees, and they've had fulfilling careers in the midst of marriages, children, unwell parents, unwell in-laws, supporting a lot of people. Now, because I am a brand like that, I can live and breathe the fact that for us, technology is a packaging and at the core is being human. Because there are people who have had 30-year-long careers in the bank and this is consistent. That's one part of why this human community got built. The second part is that our customer base, it's very unique. If somebody is born in one of our leading markets, which is Kerala, and we are not just a Kerala bank, now we are a bank across the country. Arunachal mein bhi hamara branch khula hai to. Or if somebody passes away, it is said that the Federal Bank branch manager has to go to the house on the day of birth or on the day of passing, without which the function is not done and the client gets offended. Now you tell me, which other brand in the country do you know of has this kind of loyalty? And with that kind of loyalty, why will we not want to be a human at the fore and digital to the, human at the core and digital to the fore kind of a place? And why will we not want to invest in building human relationships?
And is that how your current Rishta campaign came about, which talks about, Rishta Aapse?
So Rishta is a very interesting thing. It's not a tagline. It is a campaign which was there, but it was canned for a while because we were not too sure whether we want to go ahead with this line or no. So you may hear this about the same thing about a lot of Bollywood movies which were canned initially, but suddenly, serendipitously, the star cast changed and it became a super duper hit. So Rishta for us was something like that. And it so happened that when I joined the bank about a couple of years back, I traveled across the country, met about 872 of my colleagues, and lived and breathed with them how they interact with their customers. And every relationship was a Rishta relationship. Whether it was welcoming me, you can always say that, okay, you were the CMO and you were visiting the branches, so they did whatever they went on did. But even in their interactions with their customers, it was such a strong bond, homie and a camaraderie that you couldn't miss the Rishta element. And what I told you earlier also about how the interactions are. And this, mind you, is despite the fact that banking requires you to change your roles very often periodically, which means that there is something in the process, something in the DNA, which is ensuring that there is consistency of delivery, despite the fact that people are changing. So that's where the genesis of the Rishta campaign happened, and Rishta Aapse hai, sirf aap se nahi. Sirf is an operating word, because if I don't say sirf, I would say Rishta aap se hai, aap se nahi, which would mean that I don't have a mobile banking app or a internet banking application, or I don't use AI or bots and stuff like that. But that's not the case. Hamare paas wo bhi hai, but fir bhi Rishta aap se.
Right, thank you. So talking about the core topic, real to real, it could be incredibly hard for people to imagine what offline customer communities even mean. Like it's easy for me to define what an online community means, like get me like-minded people on a social media page, right? So how do you see an offline community of customers, and what benefits do you think accrues to a brand that is pursuing an offline customer community?
See, I think one of the things that CMOs get measured on is the number of people following you on social media, okay, which is fine, but it's not the only measure for CMOs. Having said so, we need to clearly understand the difference between a product company and a service company. When I'm saying product as in a technology company. So for example, Meta, or for example, Instagram, or WhatsApp, or all of these are technology companies. For them to have a lot of people following them on the digital platform and building a community there is natural because their core is technology. Whereas for any other business, which is a service industry, say hospitality, say airline, say banking, say a coffee shop, the communities are people who come there and enjoy that cup of coffee, have a fan following for an airline, go to a hotel as a part of their family dinners. It is so much a people business. And you also find that over generations, people keep coming to it. I mean, Madras Cafe, I've been a Bombay boy for, I mean, don't look like a boy anymore, but I've been a fourth generation Mumbaikar. But Madras Cafe is a classic example. We all used to date at Madras Cafe when we were at college at, UDCT and places like that. And now, I'm an apologetic runner, but when I go on a run on Sunday, I pick up breakfast for home and say, boss, dekho tumhare liye nashta lekar aa gaya karke. But it is such a community kind of a thing. And you keep coming back to those places. So very important for you to understand that are you a digital first brand or are you a people first brand? Around people first, you can build a digital experience. But for a digital first brand to suddenly pivot into people, which is outside the digital ecosystem, is a bit expensive, is a bit of a scale up. It's easier for them to do it there.
Right. So, in the era that's dominated by social media, right? So why do you think it's priority for, let's say, a non-tech business or even a tech business to look at or connect with customers that's beyond the realm of digital?
So I'll pivot this question from a banking perspective. If I don't have a digital platform, I'll get booed away by my customers, okay? But when my customer has an issue, when a transaction has gone wrong, for example, a debit has happened in the account, or for example, he or she is not getting a home loan statement, they definitely need somebody to go out and meet. That is where the play comes in. It is always very important for them to have a play where they are able to come back to people to address their issues, particularly when money is involved. And hence, somewhere in a platform like this, it is very important for me to have a people-centric orientation.
Right. Following up on that, see, today we are even scared that AI might take my job, and today it's IDS. Everybody's talking about the advancements in AI and so on. But how do you see a relevance of an art or a culture or a sports as a brand? In the world where more and more things is done by AI. How would you see, because all these things are done pretty much offline, right? Like a leisure or sports. So how would you see that as a importance for building customer communities?
So I want to answer your question in two parts, okay? And part one is my Star Trek answer, which I'm absolutely clear of, saying that despite Spock being on board, Captain Kirk ran one of the most complex enterprises because he had people from different nationalities. He had people from different galaxies. He had Spock whom he could ask and say, tell me what's the weather like in Delhi. And Spock would say that the weather is so-and-so, so-and-so. There is so much of crowd. There is a morcha happening for the farmers. All of it he could have gone and said. But the decision came back to the human being. So that's one reason why it is very important for you to have the human factor going. What was the second part of your question?
Yeah, so how do you see those things like arts or sports and culture affecting customer communities?
So I'm just saying that the human involvement is very important in case of Captain Kirk and Star Trek. When you look at art, culture, music, these are all things which bond us. Imagine, and we were just talking about Shankar Mahadevan's concert. You can of course see the concert on YouTube and put it on, put it live on a Friday evening for friends and family. But when you're out there, when you're listening to a Shankar Mahadevan concert in person, or when you're at a U2 concert in person, the vibe is completely different. And the reason why you invest in all of these is because they are the most common linkage points for a brand, and you can't go wrong when you are a part of it. The other part is that, particularly for us in the industry that we are in, which is banking, it is very important for me to have a micro connect, which means that my strategy in Arunachal can be completely different than my strategy in Arunachalam, which is down south, okay? My strategy in Mumbai can be completely different from what my strategy could be in Meerut. And every place has got its own little nuances. And this, for example, you can understand with what is happening in Ayodhya. Overnight, it's an 85,000 crore economy. And this is largely driven by the human emotion to connect. There is nothing digital out there. So those are the cues. And particularly for a bank, it's very important for us to be a part of that stream where money and economy is flowing. And hence, the people connect and understanding of what people are doing is more important. And then mingling a package around digital.
So interesting you brought Ayodhya. So let's say, is it fair or right to say everybody who's visiting that place right now, they could be from any economic class, any gender, of even any faith, I don't know. But let's say about 1 lakh to 1.5 lakh people are visiting a Ram temple, Ayodhya every day. So would you see that as a customer community as such, or a prospective customer community, and would you build something around it? Or is it even a fair approach? I don't know, I'm just asking.
See, and it's going between you and me, but think about it, okay? Ayodhya itself was not a digital first case study. It is a people first case study in which the digital convenience will be built, which means I should be able to make a UPI payment for a donation that I want to go out and make. I should be able to have a refit tag which allows me to pass through a gate 1 and gate 2 and a gate 7. It should allow me to be at a particular point in time, particularly if I'm a senior citizen, I can't walk, so I can be there depending on how the crowd is coming. So the whole point comes back to again saying that you build technologies around people and not technology in isolation and get people to adapt. One of my pet peeves against artificial intelligence is that we are superimposing it the other way. We are telling the humans to adapt to artificial intelligence and creating this fear saying that it will take away your jobs. It will make us more efficient. As a marketeer, I can do more creatives per creatives because of artificial intelligence, images and blogs and content and stuff like that. But still, my agency is the one which will give me that one big idea, Rishta aap se hai, sirf aap se nahi.
Right. So you said your strategy in Arunachal is different from Arunachalam, right? So you have chess tournaments going on, you have tennis sponsorships going on, you have concerts of Sonu Nigam going on, you have badminton plays as you're sponsoring badminton plays. So how do you see ROI in each one of them? What's the overarching theme that connects any of this?
So I think one of the areas that we really put thrust on, me and my team both, is that we want to ensure that we are plunging into groups and large groups of people rather than being only on the ATL space. Because for a bank, I think what happens inside a branch, which has got a 5-kilometer radius or a periphery, is more important than what happens at an ATL campaign. If you ask my branch manager and I tell him कि boss मैंने आपके लिए रिश्ता वाला campaign किया TV पे, उसको कुछ नहीं फर्क पड़ता है. लेकिन अगर मैं उसको ये बोलूँ कि I am going to run a chess championship around your branch, we are going to get families who have 2 kids or 1 kid, their average age is about 35, 40. He is going to be super excited. And my ability to convert is going to be higher. Finally, at the end of the day, as a CMO, I am responsible for ensuring that the P&L or the book of the bank of that particular branch goes up. I mean, Agrahyah for us was a classic example. The book was a sub 100 crore kind of book. But when we ran a very simple program celebrating the humans of Agrahyah, over a period of 3 months' time, the book went up to about 100 crores. And the good part in banking is that your next low is higher than your previous high. So it's very important for you to go out and create templates which allows you to get a lot of people together to see the brand intensely and to see the human face of the brand.
Right, but how do you prove a ROI of, let's say, a Speak for India or a Future Next or any of the initiatives that you have?
Yeah.
How do you measure ROI or show it to the, let's say, your colleagues out there asking for, hey, what did you achieve with all the money you spent?
So let me take a different example. There is Ayush Shraddha who says that CMOs are like Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't know if you've seen that video, but she gives an example saying that they understand process and ROI absolutely clearly, and they set up the ball, and when they are about to strike, the ball is taken away saying budget nahi hai. But that's how Cristiano works, and that's how perhaps some of the CMOs work. But I have been lucky in my case because one is that I was the first CMO which was hired by the bank in its 92-year-old history. So the bank obviously was hungry for somebody like me to come in. Second is that I understand 8 languages, so I understand the culture part. Third part is that a lot of our efforts are not on the ATL space, which needs to be built over a long period of time, okay? However, what we go out and do around branches, and that's what has been our focus, from micro to macro marketing, we are able to demonstrate impact. So when I do a Speak for India for the Tamil, in fact, Speak for India is India's largest, actually the world's largest debating platform for young college-going kids. runs across some 8, 9 states in different languages. That's another important part of connecting with people. The vernacular architecture of the brand is very important. You can't just do a English ka flip into Hindi and worst case English. So those parts are very important. So when you do programs like this, you find that you are able to get a group of people to come in an intimate periphery where the people from the bank are able to involve. Therefore, going back to Cristiano Ronaldo, my argument is that a CMO is not Cristiano Ronaldo, he's David Beckham. His job is to set up the goal, bend it in right, and ensure that the sales guys and the branch, in our case, the branch distribution team, is available to shoot it into the goalpost. So don't ask him ever कि कितने goals किए, कुछ नहीं किया उसने, useless है. But कितने goals set up किए is the question to ask a CMO. And that is what a Speak for India or a Agrahyah or a music concert or our backing to athletes, which we are going out and doing, which another people kind of a thing, is all driving towards.
I have a 12-year-old nephew who loves football, and you ask him how many goals he scored. He says, no, I assisted 4. And he's extremely proud of the 4 assists he did, as opposed to the strike of
I'm also
4.
proud of all the assists that I do for my sales and marketing team. And it's equal stakes on the table because I know my job absolutely clearly, and the rest is up to the guy.
Sure. I will ask you a question before that. After this question, we can have some questions from the audience as well. Right? So please have your questions ready. He's here to answer them. So we spoke about ROI, we spoke about all this, but let's say I am a new brand, like you are a very large brand, very large bank, and so on and so forth, right? So let's say I'm a B2B startup, or I'm a product first company. Anything we spoke here, does it make any sense about offline customer?
So let me be on your side of the table. While we have been a very old brand, we are also very new to the market. We are perhaps the 6th largest, not perhaps, we are the 6th largest bank in the country. Few quarters here and there, it could move up and down. Having said so far, and this is what I get to hear from our partners in media and technology and all of that, so far, we didn't have a pan-India presence, okay? Now, there were 2 ways to go out and build a pan-India presence. One is that I have unlimited marketing dollars, and therefore I go out and do a big bang advertising. Or, like a small product startup, I start working amongst communities which matter to us. So we have this thing called as from presence to prominence, prominence to dominance. Okay? If you reverse it, Kerala was a dominant market for us. Now we have been actively working in Tamil Nadu, which is now becoming a dominant market from a prominent market. We have presence in the north and the northeast, which will now move into prominence because the number of branches are going to expand, and therefore the marketing ripple will happen. So like a small startup or a product team, when I look at Delhi as a market, or I look at Northeast as a market, I don't see it as the Federal Bank, which is the 6th largest bank. I'm still a chotu, chutku out there. So I need to keep working around communities. And a lot of our work, because of the nature of our business, goes along working with the governments, goes along working with the infrastructure companies, goes along working with the local. For example, I'm going back to Northeast because it's turning out to be India's largest organic export hub, working with the farmers. And those are the areas that we are invested in. At the end of the day, and this I can speak to you from the plank of a bank, the role of a bank is to get people to enjoy a particular lifestyle at a particular life stage. And that can come across any SEC that we were just sitting and seeing in the earlier conversation.
So when you set up a new branch in a small town that's not your current leadership market, right? So I'm asking this question, most startups or most new marketers with frugal budgets, the biggest problem they have is cold start.
Yes.
So let's put you there, let's say you are 50 kilometers off Salem or a small town like a Kovilpatti or a Tumkur or a Gubbi in Karnataka, and there's a new branch. How do you get your first 100 customers?
No, my first thing would be to do, and because you mentioned all the South Indian places, is to do a piping hot dosa podi kind of an evening with nice, they call it tattu chaya or, you know, that kind of thing, and get people to come to the bank branch and tell them our stories. Thankfully, the way our business is structured, we are more present in tier 2, tier 3 towns, and therefore there is a lot of people connect by default. We are not a metro-centric brand which is trying to make inroads there. And therefore understand the nuance of that particular place and go and do stuff. Like today there is a proposal which came to me from Jorhat because I traveled and we were trying to do something. Football is very big there. So they want somebody to sponsor football. And football involves a lot of young kids who are coming in, the fathers are there, mums are hanging around. So that is the way you go out and create connect. So therefore, depending on what market you're working in, you will need to go and build a story around that and not be worried about what's happening in a Bombay or a Delhi. Otherwise, you you yourself will put a lot of pressure on yourself.
Right. So we are happy to take questions from the audience. If you have, please do raise your hand. Okay, at any point you have a question, raise your hand. Till then, we will keep chatting. You have two marketers on a stage. We will talk till like maybe next ideas. So you have to stop us if you have a questions. So MVS, you said, okay, luckily you have experience of handling small town markets. Let's say I flip it and say, let's say you're opening a branch in a swanky downtown in a Delhi or a Kormangla or a Lower Parel. Then what would you do? How do you get your first 100
No, I'm
customers
getting
there?
closer. I'm saying that if I open a branch here, the whole strategy turns itself upside down at 360 degrees because I will need to create a lot of experiential stuff because the kind of consumers who will come in a place like this will be somebody who's well-heeled, well-traveled, has had experience with bank branches, will have a dozen of wealth managers sitting and serenading around them, and therefore I'll have to go out and create an experience. And that experience has to come out of banking or ex-banking. And that's where, again, the rishta will come, which means that maybe I'll have to sponsor tickets for one of the shows which is happening here and get a few people to come. The other part is that my infrastructure itself will be different because it will be customized to what I'm doing here. Maybe it will have a huge technology play. So depending on what is the market that you're working in, you will need to decide who moves up the batting order or comes back. When it comes to a lot of fintechs with whom we partner with, we always think digital first or digital at the core. But overall, when you look at the entire mass business, it is about connecting with people. And even when we build technologies, you have this whole thing of UI, UX, consumer CX, which we call as customer experience. Finally, it boils down to people and how they consume your products and services.
So let's say you have 100 rupees as to spend on marketing. How much would you appropriate for acquisition versus retention?
So again, it's a function of how mature your business is. As far as my business is concerned, there is a lot of hunger for acquisition. And all that I have learned in the last 25 years is being turned upside down because I am doing more non-digital than digital because I want to go out and create a salience for the brand and get the brand recognized by a lot of people. But the money which I spend on digital, and to just give you, it's like 8 and 2. So
8 is offline.
Is offline and 2 is
Right.
online, and 8 of offline is not again ATL. It is around communities which I want to go out and build, around people who I want to go out and meet, because that's where I'm able to create a maximum impact. But the 2 that I go out and spend is also spent, of the 2, almost about 6 or 7 goes into new technologies. Because I don't have time to catch up with what's happened earlier, but I need to be ahead of the curve. So, I mean, I'm very proud to tell you that in my team, a lot of my colleagues are themselves handling AI platforms, I mean, Gen AI platforms. They are the ones who are, creating more and more content for me, whether it is a marathon that we are sponsoring or whether it is a badminton athlete that we are sponsoring or an event like this. So a lot of it happens there. And the good part is that then it balances out overall because we are able to use the best of both. And the most important thing is that the team is enabled to manage digital in the way they can do. It's a DIY kind of a model, so we don't depend on people.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from audience at all? There. Yes, sir, please.
Thank you, just amazing, amazing insight. And I was just wondering, how do you cope up with people who still refuse to go beyond the box, beyond the whatever the structured way of looking at this market is, and yeah, I mean, I feel that frustration sometimes around me because I move around a lot and I see that this story is beyond the metros, beyond that thing. I mean, how do you tackle that? I mean, do you think that people around us are willing to see this point, willing to understand and move beyond the box?
Yeah. So there are 2 parts to your question. One part, I'll answer it in 2 parts. But one part is that in the role that one runs, in my case, I'm the CMO of the bank, it is imperative that I am not seen in the bank. I mean, my boss comes here and always keeps a question mark for me, saying MIA, missing in action is his code. I said, no, Murthy in action is what I keep telling him because I'm not there. Whenever he's in Bombay, I'm either in Shillong or I'm in, Ayodhya or I'm doing up Srinagar. But that is where all the insights come from. That's one. The second thing is that because we are a large distribution footprint company, a lot of times, and I'm not fibbing here, a lot of times when somebody from the C-suite lands up in a remote branch like this, you can actually feel moist eyes because saying, sir, yahan pe koi aata hi nahi hai. आप हमारी बात सुनिए, आपको रिश्ता बनाना एक अच्छी बात है, do it in Bombay, but here ना just this flower exhibition is going to happen. चंडीगढ़ में बहुत सारे फूल खिलते हैं दिसंबर के महीने में, आप इसको स्पॉन्सर कर दीजिए. And they're very happy about it. Now those insights, when you get it back to the boardroom and discuss with the MD, and thankfully I have good offices with the board, they realize saying that we don't need to get worried about how the other brand is building their brand architecture. My brand works in a very, very different ways, and this is the way I want to go out and build it. And he's giving me input, which is from the ground. And when you play it back to the team, saying that, देखो आपको ये चाहिए था, हमने ये कर दिया, they are also so happy. And for us, you know, at the end of the day, as a CMO, I may be wondering, 100 crore का बैंक क्या फर्क पड़ता है करके, because we are a 4 lakh crore plus kind of a overall organization. But उसको फर्क पड़ता है. And a lot of the business that we do comes from eventually the distribution guys who are at the forefront of the whole thing. The other thing which is happening, the second part of the question is that, and which you articulated here, that the consumer, and I know I'm quoting Ogilvy here, but he's not a moron. The consumer is far ahead of us when it comes to adapting and understanding technology, and he is consuming or she is consuming it ekdam daud ke consume kar raha hai. So if we don't get those nuances in, then we will be lagging behind them, and there'll be somebody else who's going to come out and do it. I mean, if you look at the whole, most of the banks, for example, for a while they had this dilemma because they had digital infra, but they were largely a physical driven company. And therefore you had a lot of proliferation or a lot of young entrants from the fintech space who are technology first. Now there is an evening out happening because we are both collaborating, and what we are lacking in as a physical infrastructure company, we get it from there. So overall, when you look at the Sigma, you need to be out in the marketplace, understanding what is happening with the consumer and with your team, and bring it back, plus an eye on what's happening in the technology. And there comes a time, and I think a lot of choices of leadership is not about what I want to do, but what I don't want to do. And in that not wanting to do, I end up doing what is right for the brand, what is right for the company, what is right for the consumer, and therefore the team. But जाना पड़ेगा आपको. I mean, Gulzar is on record, he says, लिखने के लिए तो शब्द ढूंढने पड़ेंगे ना, इसलिए मैं आज भी पढ़ता हूँ. He's 87.
Thank you so much.